So I've been running Parrot OS for a while now. Comfortable, know where everything is, life is good. Then someone in the CyberFlow Discord drops a message saying, "Why aren't you using BlackArch?" And I made the mistake of looking it up. 3 hours later, I'm downloading a 20 gig ISO at 2 in the morning like a completely normal person making completely normal decisions. For context, I know Kali, I know Parrot, I understand how security distributions work. BlackArch is not the same conversation. BlackArch is an Arch Linux-based distribution with over 2,800 security tools in its repository, not pre-installed, in its repository. The difference matters, and I'll get to that, but the number alone should tell you that whoever built this was not playing around. The installation is the first thing that separates BlackArch from every other security distro I've touched. Kali holds your hand through the installer. Parrot is friendly. Even Arch Linux has gotten more approachable over the years. BlackArch gives you options: a full ISO with a graphical installer, a minimal ISO, or my personal favorite option, which is installing it on top of an existing Arch system by running a bootstrap script. I go with the full ISO because I'm not completely insane, but even that process assumes you know what you're doing. It's asking about partitioning schemes, bootloaders, file system types. This is not an OS that wants to be your first Linux experience. It will let you shoot yourself in the foot and then quietly log the timestamp of when you did it. First boot and a default desktop is something called Openbox. Minimal, fast, almost aggressively bare. No dock, no fancy panel, no animations, nothing that could be accused of wasting a single CPU cycle. Right-click on the desktop and a menu appears. That's it. That's your interface. Coming from Parrot's clean mate desktop, this feels like someone handed me a text editor and said, "Good luck." But I keep going because I'm already in too deep. I open a terminal and run sudo pacman-syu to update the system first because that's just what you do on Arch-based systems before anything else. Pacman is the package manager, and if you've never used it, it's faster than apt, cleaner than most alternatives, and the commands actually make sense once you spend 5 minutes with it. Pacman-s toolname installs something. Pacman-rs toolname removes it cleanly. Pacman-ss keyword searches the repos. The BlackArch repository sits on top of the standard Arch repos, which means you have access to everything in the official Arch repos, plus all 2,800 BlackArch tools from the same package manager. Now, about those 2,800 tools. On Kali and Parrot, the tools are pre-installed and organized in menus by category. BlackArch doesn't do that. The tools are available, but you install what you actually need. At first, this feels like extra work, and then you realize it's actually the smarter approach. On Kali, you have hundreds of tools sitting on your system that you've never opened and probably never will. On BlackArch, your environment is exactly what you put into it. You install Nmap because you need Nmap. You install Burp Suite because you need Burp Suite. The result is a leaner, faster system where you actually know what's on it and why. This is also the point where I'll be honest about something. Everything I'm exploring tonight exists in documentation scattered across the Arch Wiki, BlackArch's own docs, random blog posts, and forum threads. The Arch Wiki alone is one of the best technical resources on the internet, and it's completely free. The problem isn't that the information doesn't exist. It's that when you're building something like this from scratch, you're constantly jumping between 15 different sources with no clear picture of how it all fits together, and nobody to ask when something breaks in a way that Google has never seen before. That's the exact gaps CyberFlow fills: the tools, the methodology, the structured path through it, and a community of people actively working through the same problems. I'm in there directly when you get stuck. Link is in the description, code CyberFlow50 for 50% off. Now, back to it. On Parrot, you open the menu and everything is already there. On BlackArch, you have to know enough to ask for the right thing. I install the tools I know first: Nmap, Wireshark, Metasploit, Burp Suite, and then I start browsing the BlackArch tool list just to see what's in there that I've never heard of. And this is where it gets actually interesting. There are tools in the BlackArch repository that I've never seen mentioned anywhere: specialized wireless attack frameworks, obscure but powerful OSINT tools, reverse engineering utilities, binary analysis tools, network fuzzing frameworks, things that exist in niche corners of the security community and never made it into the Kali or Parrot default installs. For someone who wants to go beyond the standard toolkit, This repository is genuinely one of the most valuable things about BlackArch. You can spend hours just reading tool descriptions and learning that entire categories of techniques exist that you never knew about. The performance is noticeably better than every other security distro I've run. Lighter on RAM, faster to boot, more responsive under load. This is the Arch philosophy in action. Nothing runs on your system that you didn't explicitly put there. No background services you didn't ask for, no default applications eating memory, no visual effects consuming GPU resources. For running on older hardware or inside a VM with limited resources, BlackArch is in a completely different class. By the end of the night, my honest take is this. BlackArch is not for everyone, and it's not trying to be. If you want something ready to go out of the box, Kali or Parrot are the right answer. But if you've been using those distributions for a while and you want an environment that you built yourself, that runs exactly what you chose to put on it, that forces you to actually understand your own toolkit, BlackArch is the most interesting thing you can do with a spare partition. The learning curve is real, but what's on the other side of it is worth it. By the way, a lot of you reached out after my last video asking about the setup and the aesthetics of my Kali Linux, so I put the Dotfiles first comment. Grab it, make it yours, and if you do something interesting with it, drop it into Discord. I want to see what you build. That's it. See ya.